Welcome, friends of the Greasy Shop Rag. Today we're going to take a look at a Husqvarna 135 chainsaw. Customer complaint is that he thinks it's a little low on power. So we'll do all the regular checks here and see if we can find an obvious reason for that. Looking inside the fuel tank, the fuel looks a decent color. There might be some stuff in the bottom of the tank. Let's just fire this up and see what it sounds like. It fired right up. It didn't sound terrible. I didn't notice too much to be concerned about. So let's just look this thing over and see what we got. The air filter's a little bit dirty. Looking down the throat of the carburetor though, that's really nice and clean. We don't have any problems with dirt ingestion, that's for sure. Does look like it's been running a bit rich though. Look how black that is. A lot of soot at the exhaust. Take a look inside the cylinder and see what it looks like in there. We have a rich looking spark plug and a little bit of carbon buildup inside the cylinder, but no scratches or scoring or anything like that. So normally I get spark plugs in a 25-piece shop pack, and I just take a second to check the gap on them and then throw them in the cabinet. So when I need a plug, I just grab it out of that box and I know it's already gapped. These NGK spark plugs, they're always spot on. I never have to change or adjust the gap. They're always at a 0.5 millimeter. At least the BPMR 7As are. And that one didn't come out of the shop pack, so that's why I checked it. 0.5 millimeter. Alright, we threw the air filter on there so that we could blow some schmutz out of there. But now we're going to take the filter back off and open it up and clean it. This is a nylon mesh style air filter. And you can see that there's some dirt in there. So we're going to use compressed air to blow it out. Now, if you're going to use compressed air, you got to be careful. You don't want to use real high pressure. You don't want to damage that mesh. And you want to take a flashlight, like I just did, and make sure that you didn't blow any holes or push any debris through the screen and wreck it. So we're going to take a look at the spark arrestor screen because it's so black at the exhaust port that there's a chance that thing could be plugged up a little bit. We're going to take a needle nose pliers, and after we have removed the screw for the screen, we can just pull the screen right out. Now I say we can just pull it out, but these things never just pull out. You always got to fight it a little bit. And in this case, it looks good. Yeah, there's a lot of black soot at the exhaust, but nothing is getting caught up in the screen. If we were to see old fuel being run through here, or cheap oil being used, then we might see that screen plugged up. Especially on a saw that's running this rich. It actually looks pretty good. I'm going to dump this fuel out and take a closer look at what he's got in there. I like the color of the fuel. It looks good. I like the quality and the smell of the fuel. But there's a lot of sediment in the bottom of this container. Let's see if we can look at it a different way here. Putting a flashlight on the outside of the funnel. Maybe not so much on video, but in real life that didn't work out too bad. And I should point out that this funnel, they also come in clear. You can get them instead of yellow. And if you want one, just do a search for radiator fill funnel. So what I'm going to do, I want to get some of that dirt out of the tank. There was kind of a weird hunk of something right on the end there, so I used some carb cleaner to hit that. But I want to flush it. And I'm going to flush it with old fuel, not new fuel. So I'm going to use his fuel and tap off that sediment that's settled at the bottom of the funnel. And then I can dump some sediment-free fuel into the tank, swish it around, and rinse it out. And that one shot was pretty successful in getting it clean. So now that we're happy with the way the tank looks, let's pull that fuel line and fuel filter out of the tank. You know, maybe his complaint of low power has something to do with a dirty fuel filter or a hole in the fuel line. When we put 10 pounds of pressure on that fuel line, it holds. It tells me that there's no holes in the fuel line. It tells me that the carburetor is tight. So we're putting a new filter on there and some fresh fuel. So as far as running concerns go, we still haven't looked behind the starter at the ignition coil air gap. There's 4 screws that hold the starter on. Taking the starter off of here should be part of the operator's normal maintenance. You're going to want to get behind here and clean, because if you look at this is a mess. You might think, well, big deal, it's a little dirty. Well, all the air that cools the engine comes through that starter. And look at how much buildup there is around that flywheel. We're going to get back to that dirt. Right now we're going to check this air gap. And it seems a little bit loose, meaning the gap is too big. So I'm going to loosen the screws on the ignition coil. I'm going to put a 0.3 millimeter gauge between the magnets of the flywheel and the ignition coil. Just double check that gap. That feels a lot better, but we still got this big mess to deal with underneath here. I mean, this is preventing a percentage of the air that's needed for cooling the engine. It's just not happening because it's all full of dirt. So we took the thing outside and used compressed air to blow this all clean. The part I'm installing now, Husqvarna calls an air conductor. It's a fan shroud. You want to make sure you get it in place there, or the starter's not going to bolt up decent. A couple of grooves for these kill switch wires. You want to get the wires tucked in those grooves nice so that they don't flop around in there or maybe get caught in the flywheel. And then we will crank this starter down. You'll notice that I'm using a power tool, running a screw into plastic, but the final torque is still done by hand with the tool. Not running the tool, just turning the tool. Let's get this cylinder cover on here and fire this thing up and see if it sounds any different. So it seems like it runs about the same, but what I didn't notice on the first run was that it doesn't feel like it's getting full throttle. Look at the slack in that thing. Half of the trigger movement is taken up just by slack, and then the last half is throttle movement, and it's not opening it to full. So we're going to take a pair of pliers and we're going to rebend this a little bit. I'm putting the pliers on the 90-degree bend and then squeezing, and I got to do it in both bends so that the linkage kind of stays straight. You know, if you're full throttle in a cut and you're torquing on it, maybe your anti-vibe springs are a little weak or something, you're going to bend this throttle linkage on these lesser saws. So we just kind of bent those 90-degree bends a little bit, and we're lengthening the linkage is what we're doing. So we're going to try this again, and if it feels like I'm getting full throttle out of here, then that's all I'm going to have for you on the Husqvarna135 chainsaw that was a little low on power because of bent throttle linkage. Thanks for watching. Later.